I grew up, it was a little suburb of the city of Camden called Kramer Hill. And, people have asked me if I could go back and grow up anywhere else in the world, would I do it? And I say no. It was the most amazing time of my life. It was a community where everyone knew everyone. Parents looked out for the kids when we were in the neighborhood. There was no worry about where your kids were, like there is nowadays. We had at that time, initially, had a Kramer Hill Boys Club. And as a 7-year-old, I, convinced my mother to take me over there and sign me up. And I think it was like $3. It was crazy. And played all the sports. Back then it was just football, basketball, baseball. They added street hockey later on as I got a little bit older, but basketball is something that came very, very natural to me. As a 9-year-old, I played on a 10 to 12-year-old travel basketball team, and I got to be pretty good at it, so that was my thing. Growing up there, we would play outdoors with pick-up basketball games. We had enough guys in the neighborhood, like kids on my age, that we would go to the baseball field in the summer and we would choose up sides. We would have 18 people out there playing a pick-up baseball game. We would do it regularly. It wasn't like it was once in a while. It was probably 3 to 4 times a week. And if kids went on vacation with their families, we always had extra people that we would just slide in, and we would always try to switch the teams up every week, so we had different guys playing with different guys. And it was just a real athletic community. A lot of really good athletes came out of there. But we also had a lot of adults that really led the way for, the youth. I think that was pretty evident. We were good in everything we did. I wasn't a huge football person back then as far as playing. I played, but back then it was called midgets. You played midgets and had weight classes. You were playing in weight classes and stuff. So, I played, and it was good. I had fun doing it, but basketball was my thing. I would play basketball every day if I had the opportunity. Even when the winter came in Jersey, we would shovel the court just enough that we could go out, and of course you couldn't dribble the ball because it was so cold. The air in the ball wouldn't cooperate anymore, so it would bounce, but it wouldn't really bounce, but we would still go out and play and just, find something to do. We always found something to do. So the boys club for me was, it really kind of molded me as to where I am today. I knew from an early age that I wanted to be a coach. I just always thought it was going to be in basketball. So when it came time for high school, I had options. I could have went to Woodrow Wilson High School, which is a public high school in Camden. Very diverse school. They had some issues there. There was some race stuff going on at the time, and half of my friends went there, and half of them went to Camden Catholic High School, which was in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, but it was only maybe 5 miles from my house. And I decided to go there, and it was the best decision I made, obviously. Played sports there and had a great time through high school. I enjoyed it. After I graduated, I ended up playing junior college basketball. And, people ask me how I get into softball. When I tell them, they think I'm nuts, but it was in March. It was one of those Indian summer days. It had to be in the upper 70s, and the courts were packed because everybody's been inside all that time. And I was waiting to get in the next games, and a bus came home from Camden Catholic, which is a late bus, athletic bus, and a lot of girls were on there, from the neighborhood, and they said it was a small neighborhood, so we all knew each other. So I started talking to them about how they liked the school and how was softball going, because they were really, really good athletes. And they said they were going to drop the JV softball team, and half-heartedly I said, well, just tell the AD I'll do it. And the AD was my football coach. And he called me the next day and said, "Look, just help me out. Do it for 1 year, just so we don't want to drop it, because if we drop it, we know we're not going to bring it back." And so I did it, and I had a blast. It was so much fun, and when they say the rest is history, it's actually true, because the rest after was history. I just really got into it, and I started going around to all the other high schools that were ranked in the top 10 of the area, and kind of watched how they played and picked up things from different coaches. And then I stayed there as an assistant coach for 9 years. We went to 3 state championship games, lost the first 2, which was devastating back then, because you never know when you're going to get back. And then the last one, the coach had told the team that was going to be his last game, because he had a job, and they were really giving him a bunch of grief about leaving early to go to practices and games and things. And I was actually covering a lot of the games at that point, because he just couldn't get out. So he was going to step down, and I was fortunate enough to get the job, and we won the state title that year with him, which was great, because he was a very big part of my coaching. As a young coach for me, when he took the job, I was only, I think, 20. He told me, "You're doing the hitting, you just do it." And it forced me to kind of develop my own little niche, I guess, with it. And I did, and we were successful, and he never questioned anything I did, and I kind of learned that from him. So when I had assistant coaches, I delegated responsibilities to them and let them do their thing. Obviously you oversee it to make sure everything's going the way you want it to, but you have to trust them, and he trusted me, and I think I took that with me all through my career. So and then when I became the head coach, obviously I knew all the girls, and our first year we had lost a lot from that championship team, and I think we were end up 500, which was good for them, because we had a really, really young team, but we had a team that was going to be really, really good. The next year we made it to the sectional final and lost to a really good team. They had a pitcher who, she went D1 somewhere, but I can't remember where she went, but she was good. And then in 1990, we were the number 1 team in the state. We were number 1 in our area. We ended up 23-1. We won everything. We were state champs. And that was the start of 3 consecutive state championship runs. And we were good. We had some really good teams. We were a small Catholic high school, and we played the public schools, and we beat them. So people couldn't say, well, you're in a Catholic school division, you can't beat the public schools. We beat the public schools pretty handily those few years. We just had the right mix of girls that wanted to play. And I think the cool thing with those teams were they weren't softball players per se. We had basketball players and soccer players and field hockey players, because field hockey's big on the East Coast. But they knew when March came that they were going to have fun and we were going to win. And I used to tell this story. There's a tournament there. It's called the Hamilton Invitational Tournament. You have to be invited to this. They usually bring 16 of the best teams in our area. And we go to this small town, Hamilton, which is an all Italian city, closer down toward the shore, Jersey Shore. And they play on 2 fields back to back. So our girls, when we pulled in with the bus, everybody knew Camden Catholic was there, because they would start banging on the bus, and they had these songs they would sing, and everybody would turn, and they're like, "Oh, Camden Catholic's here," and it was kind of cool. Like, people knew, especially when we were really rolling well and we were good. People knew that, here comes Camden Catholic. And I used to love that. I get goosebumps still thinking about that. I never told them to do that. That's something they did on their own. But it was just the competitiveness and the love for the game, but each other, and they didn't like to lose. If we lost a game, the players in the bus would be crying because we lost, which, you don't see that anymore. Or if you do, it's very, very rarely. And just because it meant that much to them, that there was an expectation that we were going to win, and if they lost, they didn't like it. And the good thing back then is you would play everybody twice. Like, you would play them one at your place and one away, And the second time, I used to feel sorry for those teams if they beat us the first time, because the second time they played with a little bit of an edge to them. So that was pretty cool. So the whole high school experience thing, and even at the end, I really wasn't looking to get out. I had a girl that played for me, who went to LaSalle University and played at LaSalle, and as she was finishing up her LaSalle career, she came to one of our practices and said, "Hey, the job over at LaSalle's open. You need to apply for that job." And I'm like, "I don't know if I want to do that." I knew I was kind of done with high school because there really wasn't much else we could have done. So through her, the person she was interning for, he was a big sports information person in Philadelphia, and everybody knew him. He was all through the basketball community. His name's Bob Vitrone. Everyone knew him. He reached out to me and encouraged me to apply for the job, and I did, and they hired me, and I got a little taste of college softball, and with budgets and lack of scholarships and those type of things, and it really opened my eyes to the differences at different schools and how the rich or definitely get richer and the poor they stay poor. So being at LaSalle was great, though. It was a very small university, and it was not in a great area of Philadelphia, but everyone knew everyone, and I really enjoyed that. I liked that. I've always been a very loyal person. I didn't want to leave LaSalle. It was a part-time position, so I had my own business at the time, which I was doing really well with, and able to work it where I could, go to work, do what I needed to do, and get to get the practices, games, and those type of things. And when the economy went in the early 2000s, my business went with it, so I needed a full-time job. And luckily for me, Temple University was looking for a head coach, and Temple, people aren't really familiar with the East Coast, I don't think, but in Philadelphia alone, there's 6 Division I schools within a 10-mile radius of each other. And in basketball, they have the Big Five. It's called the Big Five. Everyone's in it except Drexel. So Temple was literally 5 miles away from LaSalle, and they hired me, and they had a bigger budget. They were fully funded. They had an expectation to win, which I really enjoyed. And it took me a little bit to get the right kind of players in there. But we had a really good thing going. My 5th year, when they were all my kids, all my recruits, we broke the school record for wins. We hit 94 home runs, which led to Division I through the regular season. We had an All-American. We also had 3 players that played in the NPF, National Pro Fast Pitch League. And we had recruits coming that would have kept it going. And in the December of 2013, the new administration came in, president, vice president, they decided to cut sports, and they cut hours, which was devastating for our players. Unless you go through it, you really don't know what it's like. It was awful. We had players transfer out, which I encouraged them to do. If they could find a home, they needed to go. And we were in the American Athletic Conference that year, which was a very formidable conference with teams like South Florida, Central Florida, Memphis, UConn, Houston. There's really good softball teams in there, and we were kind of short-staffed, I guess. But you know what? We didn't finish last. I don't know how we won. I think we won 16 games. I don't know how we did it. The girls wanted to tape up their jerseys. It said Temple. They wanted to put duct tape over it, and I wouldn't let them do that because I was trying to teach them that life isn't always going to give you what you want. You have to learn to deal with it. And for them, I wasn't as worried because we had good players, and if they wanted to transfer, they were going to be able to find a home. And I helped a lot of them try to find a home by making phone calls and emails. And I know a lot of coaches through the country, so I helped them as much as I could. I was more worried for me because I didn't know, what was going to happen with me. At that point, I was all in with the coaching. So I got a phone call that summer from head coach at St. John's, Amy Kavulik, who's now the head coach at Boston College, and she offered me her assistant's job, but it just wasn't enough money to live in New York. There was no way I could have done it, which I would have loved to have done it. So I got another call from Hampton University down in Virginia, and the girl that was the secretary, I guess, asked me could she talk to me about their softball coach. And there was a friend of mine who was there at the time, and I thought they were calling me to get a recommendation for him. And the AD gets on the phone and like tells me he wants me to come down and interview for the job, and I'm like, well, what about the other guy? He's like, yeah, he's not going to be our coach. And I went down and met with them and ended up coaching there for 2 years, which I enjoyed. It was fun. It just wasn't for me, So I went to Drexel as an assistant for a year, which was very, very difficult. It was not as easy as I thought it would be. So that was a tough year. The saving grace for me there was the girls. I enjoyed the girls a ton, and I'm still friends with a lot of them. I'll still communicate with them and stuff. Then I went down to Texas at UIW, but I knew I was in trouble there because I had gotten hired, and then 3 weeks later they hired a new AD and a deputy AD. And when they met with everyone, the coaches, head coaches, first thing they told me was, we need more female head coaches here. So I said, well, why are you telling me that? I just got here. So I knew the writing was on the wall that wasn't a place I was going to get to end my career. And I didn't. And didn't know what I was going to do. This past summer, I think I applied for 57 jobs. Got 3 interviews. That was it with my experience. Was a little disappointed with that, and ended up going to Radford down in Virginia as an assistant. Really liked the head coach. She was a career D2 head coach, but again, she gave me the hitting. She let me do my thing. Connected with the girls. I think that's one of my strengths, is that I get to connect with them, pretty easily. Treat them good, so they know there's that trust there, and still had interviewed, still was hoping to interview, and Central ended up interviewing me with a Zoom. Thought I had a good interview with them. Then interviewed with Stanislaus State in California. Had a good interview with them. Didn't hear from either for a couple weeks, so I figured I was not part of either one of their searches anymore. And then I got a call from Central after practice one night at Radford, and they offered me a chance to come out and interview on campus, which I did. And then after I got back to Virginia from being out at Central, Stanislaus asked me to come out and interview in person on their campus, and then the next day Dennis called me here from Central and offered me the job, so I took it, and I'm glad I did. It's the girls have been awesome. I think the people here, they treat you good, so it's been a fun start for me here. I try to rely on my experiences, and I tell the girls they know I'm a talker, so I tell them about my experiences in the pro league, and being around the best players in the world and how they're no different than them. Everybody sees they'll see Jenny Finch, Kat Osterman, Crystal Bustos, these big time players, Monica Abbott, Natasha Watley. They're just regular people, and I learned real quick in a pro league that you don't go up to them and tell them that they're doing something wrong. We had an assistant coach with the Philadelphia Force that kind of tried to correct one of our hitters, who happened to be the leading hitter in the MPF at the time. Played at Mississippi State, so she was an SEC kid, and that didn't go well for that coach because that girl let her have it. And it really opened my eyes to the pro level. So I knew I would always, wait for someone to come to me, and a couple of them eventually came to me and asked me could I help them with their hitting, at least watch them hit and give them some feedback, which I did. And once I did it with a few, then I had more come to me and ask me questions and stuff. So I enjoyed that. And before games, when you're doing BP, it's not just BP. They want ground balls, they want fly balls, and in the summertime, it's hot, it's humid on the East Coast, and I'm hitting ground ball after ground ball after ground ball and bucket after bucket, and then the other ones want fly balls, and I'm like, is there another coaches here? Like, and I was soaking wet before the game started. I'm like drenched. I had to go get changed and stuff between our BP session and the start of the game, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. The best time ever coaching was in the pro league. It's just different. It's just a different vibe. After games, they all had to go to this picnic area, all the players and coaches, and all the players know each other anyway, and they would have to sit one of our girls, one of theirs, and they had to sign every autograph for every kid or parent or whoever came through. Whatever they gave them, they had to sign. It was part of their contracts. And when we went to York, Pennsylvania to play at a travel tournament, Jenny Finch was playing with the Chicago Bandits. And obviously Jenny Finch, people, if you're softball, if you don't know Jenny Finch, then you shouldn't be in this game. They had her over the section all by herself because everybody, and they had like a cattle run. It was funny. They put her off to the left, but they made everybody go to the right. So everyone had to go through all the other girls and coaches first before they got to Jenny Finch. And, people were standing there trying to go right to her, and they're like, nah, you have to go through. We don't want to go that way. We just want to go here. And the other girls would hear that, and they're like, this is ridiculous. So the girls would go through, and it became a joke with the players. They're like, I'm not signing anything for anyone, and we all knew they were going to sign, but just the camaraderie and the banter back and forth was just unbelievable. Well, it's great when you're representing your country and you take these players overseas. And when we went to Australia, we went to Sydney in 2010. And we played in the Olympic Stadium, which was pretty cool. We had our own guide with us who showed us around and was really, very helpful and got a chance to see things that you probably would never see. And I think we saw some things that because of who we were that like the normal tourist in Sydney will not see. We went backstage to the Sydney Opera House, all through the inner workings of how the Opera House works and stuff, and did a whole bunch of different things. We were in the settlement in Sydney where they kept a lot of the buildings just intact as they were, and the difference how small they were. And I had 4 of my Temple girls came with me on that trip, as well as a girl I had recruited at LaSalle, a pitcher who ended up going to Auburn in the SEC. She came with us too, and they all knew each other from playing travel, because two of the Temple girls were from the Philadelphia area, as was the pitcher from Auburn, and then I had a pitcher from Texas and a pitcher from actually Washington State that was on my team there. So, being there with them was pretty cool. It was when so the World Cup was going on then. And they would have these big screens down at Sydney Harbor, and they were showing like Australia's games, and it was at night, so the girls would all go down to the harbor, and it's just a huge party, and they had the time of their lives, and for me it was to see a different culture, and how expensive it is in Australia. It's crazy expensive in Australia. Like some of the car prices for used cars, there was used cars there that were a couple years old, and this was in 2010, and they were listed at like $76,000. Some of the new cars were well over $200,000, and it was crazy to see. And there's no preservatives in their food, so everything tasted different, which is a huge culture thing. When you're used to everything tasting the same way. There's a funny story. We went to McDonald's there, and because the girls were like, they wanted something that they were used to. And we go to them as McDonald's, and they order whatever they order. And I went up to get a straw or something, and the girl's like, hey, when you're up there, can you get us some ketchup? And I said, sure. So I go up to the counter, and the girl asked me, can she help me? I said, can I have some packets of ketchup? And she gave me this look, so right away I knew she had a clue what I was talking about. And I kept saying ketchup, the red stuff you put on. She goes, that's tomato sauce. And as an Italian, I'm like, it's kind of not. But I try to remember I was in Australia, and that's what they call it. So I went back and I told the girls, and they were like dying. They couldn't believe it. They thought it was hysterical. Plus, they drive on the other side of the road in Australia, so that was a, I wasn't paying attention. We had this like small little bus, and I looked up and I was like my eyes got real big. I thought we were going to, this guy was drunk or something. We were on the wrong side of the road, and I had to remember we were in Australia, and it was, it's the opposite side. But, we played well. Like the games were, great playing in the stadium. You're in the same dugout as all these Olympians. The United States had won the gold medal that year, and to see all the like plaques and those type of things about the Australian players was pretty cool to see. And we did some sightseeing stuff. A funny story. One of my Temple players, we're in a settlement in Sydney, and we're going to go to dinner, and they had a small little table, so we're like basically back to back, and I hear her order, and she ordered lasagna, and I said, don't do it, it's not going to be what you're expecting. I said, don't do it. Well, she didn't listen, as a lot of my players like to not do, and she took one bite, and that was it. She didn't eat the rest of it, and she's like, I just got a hamburger. They call them beef burgers there. They're not called hamburgers. Because I tried to be safe as I could between salad and that. And she's like, what do you have? So I had to like split my hamburger or my beef burger with her because she ended up getting this lasagna that I told her not to get. And I think it was a big wake-up call for the girls, with the different taste that they had. The candy's different. They went and bought M&Ms, and they taste different. They don't taste like as sweet as ours are. So that was pretty cool to see all that. We went to, we took them to, it's called the Blue Mountains. And as you're driving to it, you look at the mountains, it actually has a blue tint to it. They actually look like they're blue. And, they dropped us at the top, and we walked down all these trails to the bottom. And, the Auburn pitcher was wearing all her Auburn swag, all her nice stuff that they get, so much more. And she's complaining the whole time because we're walking in, walking on a dirt trail, and it had, it rains there, and there was mud and everything. And she's complaining she's getting her clothes, shoes dirty and everything else. And I was behind her, and I'm like, looking, if you don't stop, I'm going to throw you off of this mountain because you're doing nothing but complaining the whole time. And I knew her since she was a freshman in high school, so I was very close with her family as well. So I was able to say those things to her because we were like family at that time. And just to experience that was pretty cool. Going to Italy was, obviously, it was a bucket list thing for me. When I had the opportunity to go, it was a no-brainer for me. The competition wasn't great, but while I was there, the guy who ran this trip got in touch with someone who took he and I to a pro game there, so I had a chance to see a top level league because I was thinking about bringing all my college teams over there too to play, and I said we can't play against what we're playing against here because this is not worth it. And I knew right away because I've watched the Italian national team play, and there were 7 national team players playing in this game. And the pitchers were throwing really well, and they were hitting, and there was a lot of enthusiasm in the stands, and the whole thing was really cool to see. And I don't know if they can tell, but it seems like they can tell that you don't belong there, because you get looked at a lot, and I'm like, I'm thinking like, what are they looking at? Like I'm just, but I had my USA jacket on, USA softball jacket on, and I think they probably wondering who I was, maybe. Just weird to get kind of looks like that, but to see that was really cool. That softball is really branching out so much over the world, and the players are really good. So that trip there was great, to see all the different places we went to. I think we were there for 13 days, and I think we had our bus. I think at the end of the trip, they said they put 1,800 miles on the bus. Plus, with us walking a lot, we put a lot of miles on our legs, but it was just phenomenal. And I know the girls loved it. They had a blast. Funny because 4 of the players on the team were from Biola College, who who we ended up playing a couple weeks ago in California, and I actually got a chance to catch up with one of them. She's still playing this year, so that was pretty cool too. You know, you make so many acquaintances through softball that there's so many teams and travel teams and colleges, and it's really a small world, when you really think about it, because I made so many connections with people and made friendships with people that for me to last forever. So softball for me has really been a blessing. It's taken me, to 2 different countries and all across this one, teaching a game, doing camps, clinics. One of the I think the best compliment I ever received as a coach was from the girls at Temple that 5th year when they were all mine. When we were done, we still thought we were playing the next year, but when we were done at our banquet, they told me that if it wasn't for me bringing them all together, they all wouldn't be lifelong friends. And I never really thought about that before, but that would really dawned on me, like, wow, it may be a small part you play in their lives, but you're playing a part in their lives, And I thought that was pretty cool that they felt that way, that if it weren't for me, they wouldn't have all these tight friends that they have. And I know some of them got married and have kids and stuff, and all those girls that they were tight with, they're always with them. They come to their bridal shower, they came to their weddings, they do all those type of things, and I think for me, that's the ultimate. The friendships that you help facilitate that by bringing those kids together and knowing that the girls you're bringing are going to mesh with the girls you already have, because I think that's really, really important. And through my experience, I think I've been very lucky with that. Do you hit a home run on every one of them? No, but I think we've hit more home runs than we've swung and missed. So that's to me, that's the really thing that makes me smile, is when I know that they're still really close together. They stay in contact all the time. If they're not in the general area, because we had some West Coast kids, they'll see each other, they'll fly out, or they'll meet somewhere in the middle of the country for a weekend, or like I said, if there's a wedding or whatever, they'll come in for that. One of our players at Temple had just gotten married, and I said we had a girl from California on that team and a girl from Washington State, and they all flew in for the wedding too. So I got to see the pictures, and I thought that was awesome that they thought enough of each other that they would go all the way back to New Jersey, because that's where the girl's from, and attend her wedding. So that stuff's pretty cool for me. So I've been very, very blessed for sure in the game of softball, with all the things that I've had a chance to see, and places I had the chance to go to, and looking forward to continuing that a little bit.
Now you're at Central, and in your first year, obviously the West Coast, a little bit different than the East Coast. I mean, I know that as well, being a Maine guy. What's that been like, transitioning from one coast to the other?
It's been a challenge for sure. I didn't know really anything about Ellensburg, Washington, before I got out here, but I was quick to find that there's no Italian food here. I can attest to that, because I've looked. It's just different. There's, where I'm from, you used to, if you want to go to a Best Buy, you get in your car and it's, 5-10 minutes away. Or if you want to go to a good restaurant, or if you want to go to a mall, they're very accessible and close by. That's not the case here. Like, if you want to go to a Best Buy, it's going to be 40 minutes, 40-minute ride. It's different in that regard. I told people back home, when I first got here, they got the best of me. They were asking me how I liked it, and I said, well, there's really, because it's the winter time, so I'm not a winter fan. They're like, well, you need to go to the mall. And I'm like, all right, where's the mall? They said, well, Fred Meyer. And I'm like, come on. Like, they know, and it was fun. They were all laughing. They, that's what they considered like the big hot spot, was to go to Fred Meyer, which, I mean, not for nothing, you can get anything you want in there. If you want furniture, or if you want produce, you can get whatever you want in there. It's crazy. So that's been a big challenge with that. The saving grace for me is the girls really accepted me pretty easily, I think. I think I have a really good relationship with them. I've given them a chance to have a voice, and I've always been that way. I want to hear what my players have to say. They've given me a lot of hope for the future that, we can really do a lot of really positive things here. I think the people in the administration have been good to me and try to help us, and they listen when I go into, I don't want to say complain, but when I have some concerns about things, they just haven't shut me down. They listen to what I think needs to happen here for us to be successful, and hopefully those things will take place sooner rather than later. But it's a lot different. It's a lot more expensive out here than it is. And being in Texas the last 4 years, it's a little different price-wise. Texas is a lot cheaper where I was in San Antonio than it is here. Obviously the gas prices when I left Texas were $2.30 a gallon. You come out, when I came out here for a visit, when I was driving from Seattle Airport down, I saw one and the gas price was like $4.80, and I was like, oh boy, oh boy, this is going to be a different culture shock. And it's like I said, it's different. Winter's winter, so like the snow and the cold, I grew up in it. It's not like, oh my God, I don't know how to drive in the snow. I do know how to drive in the snow, and it's just, I got spoiled, I guess, the last 4 years in Texas. I told the girls in my first 2 weeks, I think I've worn long pants more here in these 2 weeks than I had in the last 4 years in Texas because of the nice temperatures there. But it's good, it's different. You kind of adjust based on where you are because you really don't have a choice. I told the girls I wasn't looking to come here for a year and then, look for another job somewhere else. Like I said earlier, I'm a loyal type person. The thing I keep going back to is Central wanted me to be their coach. And from my experience, you always want to be somewhere where you're wanted. That whole grass is greener on the other side thing is not true. It's not true. I know people have left jobs to go somewhere else and it's been a disaster. Or players have transferred to go somewhere else and they call you or text you and tell you they made a huge mistake because they wish they would have stayed where they were. So, I think we can do really good things here. I think it's a league that we can win, as everybody else can. So most of the leagues I've been in, it's the haves and the have-nots. It's a top-heavy. Usually there's 3 or 4 teams up top that could win it, and the rest of them really never going to have a chance to win it. But that's not the case in this league. Everybody, you could be last one year and win the thing the next year. And from what I've seen so far in the league this year, there's a lot of parity. A lot of teams are the same. Pitching may be the difference with some of it, but it's been a league that you can win. So that gives me, hope too that we can still win the league, and I think we could still do it this year if we were able to get in. But yeah, it's been good. I don't have any complaints other than I wish it was a little warmer. We are in April and it's it snowed last week or whatever. So
a little less wind, maybe.
A lot less wind. The wind here is the only benefit of the wind. It dries the field out faster, but that's the only benefit. It's nasty when that wind's going. It's a tough. I never saw wind that consistent, anywhere else I've been. So that was something I had to get used to. The girls don't like it either, so I feel better, and they're all Pacific Northwest girls or from Alaska, so I don't feel as bad when I complain about the wind because they're from here and they complain about it. So, but you have to play in it and you have to deal with it. And, I try to tell the girls, like, let's use that to our advantage. We have a lot of left-handed hitters and, try to convince them they need to turn on the ball a little bit more because if you have a day where that wind is going, they can get the ball in the air, it's going over that fence. So maybe an advantage for us. The other teams who've not really played in it, they're not sure how to play in it. We kind of know how to play in it. We don't always excel at it, but we know how to play in it. So we use that to our advantage. But it's been a good 5 months, whatever it's been for me since I've been here. Really looking forward to the future.
Speaking of the future, you're taking a small group from Central to Italy over this summer. How do you expect that to go? I believe Ali Thiessen's one of them.
Yeah, it's Ali Thiessen, it's Maya Seaton, Ashley Laver, and Ashton Fowler are going to go. Plus one of the girls I had at Radford, she's going, and the girls are going to love her because she's. Her parents have given her that trip as a graduation present. She graduates from Radford in May, and but she is a joker, like someone who's going to make you laugh, and the girls are going to love her. She's hysterical. So they're really excited about it, and especially Allie. Allie's from Canada, so she doesn't even pronounce the words right. I mean, some of the things she says, and I'm all over her when she does it, and all good-natured stuff, And she told me that when we go to Italy, she's gonna sit next to me at dinner and order noodles, and I'm like, they're gonna laugh you right out of the restaurant if you do. So they're really looking forward to it. It's gonna be fun. Again, it's another chance for them to interact with other girls that they don't know, and they'll follow each other on all their social media platforms and stuff. And, if they run into each other playing, they'll be like, oh, I remember last year we went to Italy, we did this, we did that. So it should be another fun trip with them. They talk about it all the time as it gets closer. They ask me questions. I know Ashley has been looking up the do's and don'ts of what tourists should do and not do. Like one of the crazy thing is if the Italians don't think you should be wearing flip-flops unless you're going to the beach, unless you're at the beach. So she told me about that she saw that, and she's going to make sure that she doesn't do that. So I think they're really looking forward to it. It should be a fun time, and when we do go to these places, I don't necessarily tell the girls to have to come with me, and they're free to branch out on their own, but I'm sure there'll be some times where they're going to want to, not sure where they're going, and they're going to maybe rely on me to kind of direct them a little bit since I've been there 2 times already, and especially the big cities, I know where I'm going. So I think they'll have a blast. It'll be a phenomenal trip, and I know they're really, really looking forward to it. So make a lot of memories, and the 4 of them are really good people. They're funny. You can mess with them, joke with them, and I told Allie, I mess with Allie all the time. If she drops a ball in the outfit, I said, when we get to the Trevi Fountain, I'm dumping you into that Trevi Fountain. And the other day in the game, she missed a ball, and I said, Al, and she goes, I know, I have my snorkel ready for Italy. Which, that's the stuff I love as a coach, when you have your players feel comfortable enough with you that they can say that. This was during a game. They can say that stuff, and it's all good-natured stuff. It's not, there's no malice behind it. It's all, I want them to be relaxed, and like she said that, and everybody started laughing, including me. I thought it was hysterical, just to come out with a one-liner like that, So I think the trip will be awesome. I think Maya's parents are going as well. So that'll be, good for her, I guess, to have her parents there. I guess especially if she needs more money, she'll be able to hit them up. But it's going to be a great trip again. The last time we went, which was 2019, I believe, we had no rain the whole time we were there, which was great. It was fantastic. Clear skies. The only thing I didn't get to do yet was go into the Vatican. So that's definitely on the itinerary this trip, which will be great. I really wanted to see that. Plus, I know that now at the Coliseum, you can actually go down underneath. Before they wouldn't let you down where they used to keep the slaves and the animals and the gladiators and stuff. Now you can get down there, so I'm really looking forward to getting some video and pictures of that to go with the other stuff I have at the Coliseum when I was there before. So even though I was there twice, there's a lot of things that you will see this time that I didn't see before, because you're just in such awe of all the history and stuff. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. It's going to be a great trip.
And of course, you're Italian by heritage. Where is your ancestral location?
Teramo. It's west of Rome. The first time I went, they went with my two daughters, and we rented a car, and we actually went to Teramo, but as long as it took us to get this car, I don't know if my oldest one, she was in charge of this trip, so I didn't know if there was maybe a language barrier or whatever, but by the time we got the car and got out there, because it was probably an hour and a half ride, we didn't get a chance to see much of it. So my youngest one, she's the photographer of the family, and she snapped some pictures real quick, and then we had to get back. So I was talking to my oldest daughter a couple weeks ago. We may try to go next year again with my daughters, but we're going to go out to Teramo and stay for a couple days, and really, we're trying to get our dual citizenship, so maybe we can acquire some of the documents we need to get through it. Instead of having a middle person, we can just go there and do it ourselves. So we're going to go a couple days, try to stay for a couple days, and then go south, because we haven't gone south yet, down to Amalfi Coast, Positano. Maybe even go over to Sicily, depending on the time we have, just to kind of see it, because I know retire-wise, I'd like to retire there. I am one of those people that when they say if you don't like it, leave. There's a lot of things in this country I don't like, so I would like to go at least for half of the year, and just kind of see what it's like. Because if it's not for me, I can always come back. But from what I've seen, the two times I went, I don't think it would not be for me. There's club softball teams over there, so I'm sure I can, get involved somehow. I've been really studying the language a lot more, knowing that that's a destination I would like to get to. So hopefully by the time that happens, I will be able to get, not just by, but be a little more fluent in it. I can understand it more than I can speak it now. I'll see words and I know exactly what it is, but trying to put them into sentences, because the words they're all different all over the place with the words, so it becomes a little bit more of a challenge. The way we put words in a sequence for a sentence is different there. So that's something I would like to do. So hopefully we can pull that off. Would be a great thing for me. Because my oldest one and I, we talked about just getting something together. Because she works all the time. She wouldn't be able to be there all the time anyway. So I would be there, much of the time. I really don't want to go too north because it gets cold up there. And
up in the Swiss Alps.
I don't want to do that. I know we went to, the last time we went to Lake Como, and we had the opportunity to go into Switzerland, but they decided against it. And we were at Lake Como. We took a boat over to little village Bellagio, and just seeing that was just, it was a great time to be there because it was the summer and it was great. You're on the water. We had our own boat. We went by George Clooney's villa, because he wasn't there, so they pulled the boat up real slow, and all the people were taking pictures of his villa, which was gorgeous. And there's a waterfall that goes down the side of the mountain there, that goes into the lake, and it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. So we saw that, and I want to see south before we kind of make a decision. My daughter kind of is interested more in the Florence area, and not me. I didn't mind it, but I can't see me staying there. Milan did nothing for me. Milan reminded me of Philadelphia, New York, the big cities with all the big stores and that kind of stuff. There wasn't as much history. There's history there,
right,
but there's not as much as there is in a Rome, and even Venice. Venice was really cool to see. People don't realize that they're not allowed to have cars in Venice. They're not on the island. They're not allowed to have motorbikes. You have to walk. And that was different. It was really different. When you get off to the one side, they have buses and things that will take you to, the airport and stuff. But you can't go through the inner part of Venice by anything other than foot, which I thought was pretty interesting. So there's little things that you just, you see, and we went to Siena and we just missed in their big plaza there, they have a horse race every year, and they bring all this dirt in and stuff, and they make a racetrack, and this plaza is huge, and we had just missed it. It was a couple days, I think, before we had gotten there.
Is that the plaza that's on the downslope?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's huge, and they have, they must bring a ton of dirt in there, because you would think the horses, need at least, probably, I would think probably 4 to 6 inches of dirt there. But that was, the cool that they do that kind of stuff, and we did a wine tasting thing in Florence where we went, and people ordered, the parents there, they ordered wine to get shipped back to the United States, and they make their own balsamic vinegar there, and we had that, and that was pretty cool. Just a different taste of things. It's not like the balsamic vinegar here. It's a little thicker, but man, is it good.